evil
All the victims
murderer
were slashed to
lives.
death.
With a knife?
No, it sounds crazy, but it looks like they were killed with a giant pair of scissors.
The giant scissors once again search for prey. The trail of terror stretches across Europe, from Norway to England.
Here it is, the Barrows Mansion. We have to go there and look around, or we'll never solve the mystery of Scissorman.
You've got to be joking. It's way too dangerous.
As long as he's alive, we're not safe anywhere, Doctor.
One after another, the horrifying murders continue. Who will make it through this game of murder alive? Clock Tower.
Clock Tower, developed by Human Entertainment and released by ASCII in 1996 for the Sony PlayStation. This is actually the second game in the series. The first was never released in America and was only released on the Super Famicom and PlayStation 1 in Japan. Jennifer Simpson is one of two survivors of the infamous Clock Tower incident, where Jennifer and her friends from the Granite Orphanage were taken to a nearby castle and hunted and slaughtered one by the maniacal Scissorman. She managed to outwit and defeat the Scissorman, but now, years later, he has returned and is coming after Jennifer and her friends once again. Clock Tower is a third-person, point-and-click survival horror game where the player must find certain clues and objects in the environment to learn more about the Scissorman and ultimately to find out how to defeat him. As you search for clues and items, the Scissorman is constantly roaming around the map, looking for you, trying to stop you in your tracks. The Scissorman's patterns are completely randomized, so you never know where he's going to pop out or where he's going to attack you from. When being chased by the Scissorman, you must locate hiding places or objects within the environment to fight him off and escape. But the Scissorman's not as dumb as you think he is. Sometimes your hiding place isn't enough, and the chase will continue, or he will kill you where you stand. In a pinch, there's what the game calls the panic button. Every time you're cornered by the Scissorman, your cursor begins to flash. If you tap the button fast enough, you'll escape the Scissorman, but it also lowers your stamina. You can only use so much of the panic button before you have to take a break from the Scissorman and wait for it to recharge. Clock Tower is one of the first games to use the run and hide mechanic, where you have a constant pursuer searching for you as you play the game. Later games will go on to use this mechanic, such as Resident Evil 3, Outlast, and new games such as The Evil Within and Alien Isolation. As mentioned before, Clock Tower is a point-and-click game where you must move the cursor around the screen and select parts of the environment to move to or explore. You can use the PlayStation controller, but you can also use the PlayStation mouse, which to me makes the game a lot easier to play. Clock Tower is split up into 4 scenarios, the first scenario being the prologue where you play as Professor Barton. Afterwards, depending on your actions in the prologue, you'll have a main heroine throughout the remainder of the game, which is either Jennifer Simpson or Helen Maxwell. Whichever character you choose will determine the rest of the game, which areas you visit, what characters you play as, and what events occur. The game also has 10 different endings depending on which of the 2 heroines you go with and what actions you've taken throughout the game. Sometimes the game can end after the second scenario. Clock Tower is an early PS1 game, and it shows. The graphics and character models look very crude and blocky, but it's the gameplay experience and the atmosphere that makes Clock Tower unique. The cursor controls are also a little jittery, and sometimes it'll flicker around when you're trying to click a specific object in the environment. You also have the ability to run, which involves you double-clicking the cursor, which seems to work better on the mouse than it does on the controller, to me at least. Scissorman is one of my favorite video game antagonists, and actually where I got my name for my YouTube channel, and is a name I continue to use as all my online tags and handles. Due to his random nature, you never know where this devilish, diabolical little shit stain is going to pop out. It's frustrating when he pops out, I know, but it keeps the game exciting and unpredictable. It makes you work quicker in order to find the solution and escape, because sooner or later you're going to run out of ways to fight him. There's also very little in the way of music, just enjoy the sounds of silence. To me, it makes the atmosphere just that much more tense. There is some voice acting in Clock Tower, but as you'd imagine, it's pretty bad. Even though Clock Tower can be finished pretty quickly, It has tons of replay value with the multiple endings, different scenarios, different playable characters, and ultimately just the many different ways you can play. Clock Tower did spawn a couple of sequels, but none of them were as good as this one or even the Super Famicom original. It's a shame the original was never released in America, as it's just as much fun as this one. But there were some people who made a translated ROM way back that you can download so you can play the original on an emulator if you feel like it. If you happen to stumble across a copy of Clock Tower in the wild, go ahead and pick it up and enjoy it. I highly recommend it for anyone who's in the mood for a classic horror experience and one of the greatest video game villains of all time. Well guys, that's it for this episode of the 31 Games of Halloween. Please leave a like and a comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't already, and please share with your friends. I thank you guys so much again for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow on day 21 of the 31 Games of Halloween. Have a good night.